Every single second, your brain is processing approximately 11 million bits of information. Yet, your conscious mind is only aware of about 50 bits. This staggering disparity suggests that the reality you experience is not a direct reflection of the world, but a highly curated biological simulation, designed for survival rather than accuracy. Welcome to MindSpark Science, where today we explore the profound cognitive dissonance that occurs when the data provided by our environment simply does not match the reality constructed by our neural architecture. Imagine a sophisticated supercomputer trying to render a high-definition universe, using hardware that was originally evolved just to find berries and avoid predators. This is the fundamental paradox of the human condition. We often feel frustrated when our plans fail, when our emotions overwhelm us, or when we feel a sense of brain fog. That prevents us from performing at our peak. But what if these moments of perceived failure are actually sophisticated data management protocols? When the data doesn't match reality, your brain isn't breaking down. It is recalibrating its internal model to ensure your continued existence in a chaotic, entropy-driven universe. To understand this, we must look at the brain as a prediction engine. According to the theory of predictive coding in neuroscience, your brain does not sit and wait for sensory input to tell it what is happening. Instead, it constantly generates internal models of what it expects to see, hear, and feel. When you walk into a dark room, your brain uses past data to hallucinate the floor beneath your feet before your eyes even adjust. If you trip over an unexpected object, that is a prediction error. At that microsecond, the data from your physical senses contradicts the reality your brain predicted. This is the moment where neuroplasticity is born. Stress, which we often view as a negative intruder, is actually the chemical catalyst that signals the brain to update its software. When you feel that tightening in your chest or the surge of adrenaline during a difficult task, you are experiencing the biological cost of high-speed data processing. Your amygdala and prefrontal cortex are in a high-stakes negotiation, trying to decide if this new, mismatched data requires a fight or flight response, or a learn and adapt expansion. Think of your consciousness as an energy grid. In physics, we know that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. Your brain operates on about 20 watts of power, barely enough to light a dim bulb, yet it must navigate a world of infinite complexity. To save energy, the brain takes shortcuts, creating heuristics and biases. We call this reality, but it is more like a low-resolution desktop icon representing a much more complex file. When we experience trauma, failure, or deep confusion, the icon breaks. We see the raw code of the universe, and it is terrifying because it is unorganized. This is where the quantum metaphor provides a deeper layer of insight. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in a state of superposition, multiple possibilities at once until they are observed. Similarly, your potential exists in a state of superposition until your perception collapses it into a specific experience. If your internal data is tuned to a frequency of limitation, you will literally fail to see the opportunities right in front of you. Not because they aren't there, but because your neural filters have deemed them noise rather than signal. This brings us to the most fascinating twist in human biology, the default mode network, or DMN. This is the part of the brain that is active when you are daydreaming or thinking about yourself. Often, when we feel most stuck or when our reality feels most stagnant, it is because the DMN is over-filtering new data to protect our ego. We think we are weak because we can't handle the pressure, but in reality, our brain is intentionally dampening our sensory input to prevent a total systemic overload. Your weakness is actually a sophisticated surge protector. It is a biological pause button that allows your synapses to reorganize. If we look at the work of neurobiologist Carl Friston and the free energy principle, we learn that all biological systems are driven by the need to minimize surprise or entropy. Your brain hates it when the data doesn't match reality because surprise requires massive amounts of metabolic energy to process. Therefore, your brain will often try to change the data or ignore it just to stay in a low-energy, comfortable state. Growth, then, is the intentional embrace of high-entropy states. It is the willingness to let the data be messy. When you feel like you are losing control, you are actually entering a state of hyperplasticity, where the brain is most capable of forming new dendritic connections. This is the mind spark, the moment where the friction between what is and what we thought should be creates the heat necessary to forge a new neural pathway. We are not just observers of our lives. We are the architects of the interface through which we perceive it. To go deeper, we must analyze the concept of bioelectronic feedback. Every thought you have is essentially an electrochemical signal traveling through a dense forest of neurons. These signals operate on specific frequencies, and when these frequencies encounter a reality that doesn't align with their current calibration, we experience what is known as cognitive friction. This friction is often mistaken for incompetence or exhaustion, but in the realm of cellular biology, it is the process of mitochondrial recruitment. Your cells are literally pulling more oxygen and glucose into the prefrontal cortex to help you decode the discrepancy. Consider the way a liquid crystal display works. If the electrical current is inconsistent, the image flickers. Our lives flicker when our internal data, our beliefs, our memories are out of sync with the objective quantum field. The data we receive is objective, but the reality we feel is subjective. This is why two people can stand in the same room, experiencing the same event, yet one sees a catastrophe while the other sees a catalyst for change. The difference lies in the signal-to-noise ratio of their neural processing. If you are operating from a place of chronic stress, your brain increases its sensitivity to noise, meaning you see threats everywhere. If you are operating from a place of curiosity, your brain increases its sensitivity to signal, meaning you find patterns of opportunity in the chaos. This is not mere positive thinking. This is the biological reweighting of synaptic importance. Your brain is a dynamic living topology that is constantly folding and unfolding based on the informational load it carries. When the data doesn't match reality, it's as if you are trying to navigate a new city with an old map. You could blame the city for being confusing, or you could simply draw a new map. The drawing of that map is what we call learning. It is a physical act that requires the synthesis of new proteins and the strengthening of myelination around your axons. We are essentially walking, breathing biological algorithms that have the unique ability to rewrite our own source code. This is the ultimate freedom of the human mind, the ability to consciously intervene in our own automated processes. In the quantum realm, the observer effect suggests that the act of looking at something changes the thing being looked at. In the realm of psychology, the act of observing your own thoughts changes the structure of your brain. This is the essence of mindfulness through a scientific lens. By observing the mismatch between data and reality, you create a space, a temporal buffer, where you can choose how to respond. This buffer is where the most profound philosophical realizations occur. It is where we realize that the self is not a static thing, but a fluid process. If the self is a process, then failure is just a data point, not a destination. We must also consider the role of the social brain. Humans are hypersocial creatures, and much of our data is gathered from others. When we feel rejected or misunderstood, our brain processes this social pain in the same regions where it processes physical pain. This is because for our ancestors, being separated from the tribe was a death sentence. Today, when the social data suggests we don't fit in, our brain triggers a high-level survival alert. However, in the modern world, this data is often skewed by digital interfaces and superficial interactions. We are living in an era where the data is almost entirely disconnected from the reality of human connection. This creates a massive reality gap that leads to unprecedented levels of anxiety. To bridge this gap, we must return to the biological fundamentals: breath, movement, and genuine presence. These are the grounding signals that tell the nervous system that despite the chaotic digital data, the physical reality is safe. This safety is the prerequisite for high-level creative and philosophical thought. Without it, we are trapped in the lower rungs of Maslow's hierarchy, forever reacting to ghosts in the machine. Let us also touch upon the concept of temporal discounting. Our brains are wired to value the present more than the future. When we try to build a long-term goal, the daily data of hard work doesn't match the immediate reality of comfort. The brain screams for the dopamine hit of the present moment. Overcoming this requires the prefrontal governor to override the limbic system, a feat of neural strength. Each time you choose the long-term reality over the short-term data, you are thickening the gray matter in your brain. This is the science of willpower. It is the ability to hold two conflicting realities in your head at once. This is the core of human innovation. Every great invention started as a piece of data that didn't match the reality of its time. The inventors were simply people who refused to let their internal models be limited by the current external data. They practiced cognitive sovereignty. the refusal to let the environment dictate the internal state. This is what we strive for here at MindSpark Science. We want to equip you with the intellectual and biological tools. Your consciousness is the most complex phenomenon in the known universe. It is a bridge between the cold laws of physics and the warm experience of life. When the data doesn't match reality, it's not a sign that you are lost. It's a sign that you are at the frontier of your own expansion. The wow moment isn't just about learning a new fact. It's about realizing that the person who just learned that fact is now a different biological entity. Your brain has physically changed as you've listened to these words. New synapses have fired, new connections have been teased, and your reality has slightly shifted to accommodate this new data. This is the miracle of the living mind. It is a self-correcting, self-expanding, and self-aware system that is constantly reaching for a higher state of coherence. The mismatch is the movement. The confusion is the catalyst. The error is the evolution. As we close this extensive exploration, I want you to consider this. What part of your current reality is actually just an old prediction that no longer fits the new data of who you are becoming? The universe is under no obligation to make sense to your current neural map, but you are under a biological mandate to keep exploring. If this deep dive into the mechanics of the mind sparked a new thought, I invite you to join our community. Science is not just about facts. It is about the courage to ask why when the answers seem impossible. Please hit the like button if you found value in this perspective. Subscribe to MindSpark Science for more journeys into the intersection of biology and philosophy, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think we perceive reality as it is, or only as we are? Your engagement helps us continue to build this laboratory of ideas. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep sparking. Your journey into the depths of the mind is only beginning, and every data point you collect is a step toward a more profound reality. Stay curious, stay analytical, and never stop seeking the spark that ignites your understanding of the cosmos. Remember, the data is just the language. You are the one who writes the story. Thank you for being part of MindSpark Science. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon to never miss a moment of discovery. See you in the next video.